Our goal simply is to make those off-label injections on-label and have those patients and doctors have access to a preparation of bevacizumab that meets the regulatory requirements for ophthalmology.
Welcome back, everyone, for another Virtual Investor CEO segment. My name is Janine Thomas. I am CEO of JTCIR, and I will be the moderator for this segment. Today, we are featuring Outlook Therapeutics. I am very pleased to be joined by Russ Trenary. He is President and Chief Executive Officer of Outlook Therapeutics. Welcome, Russ.
Thanks for having us, Janine. Always a pleasure.
Well, we're happy to have you back on our platform. And before we get started, I want to inform our audience that Outlook Therapeutics is listed on NASDAQ and trades under the ticker OTLK. And during today's discussion, the company will be making forward-looking statements, which are subject to various risks and uncertainties. And I encourage everyone to view the company's website at outlooktherapeutics.com or the SEC's website for the latest filings and information. So we are going to dive right in, Russ. And for those that are tuning into this segment that are new to Outlook Therapeutics, can you provide a brief corporate overview?
Yeah, happy to, Janine. I think what's important for people to understand is our goal is to enhance the standard of care in the treatment of wet AMD. And what we're trying to achieve here is to obtain the first ever FDA approval for an on-label ophthalmic preparation of bevacizumab, which is a molecule that the doctors are familiar with. And we want this approval from the FDA to go with our approval that we've already achieved in Europe this year. These approvals will give us line of sight to approximately 6 million off-label injections of bevacizumab that occur each year. And our goal simply is to make those off-label injections on-label and have those patients and doctors have access to a preparation of bevacizumab that meets the regulatory requirements for ophthalmology. I think one thing that we believe will become clear to doctors and patients who have wet AMD is that off-label bevacizumab that is used today in ophthalmology was designed for use in oncology. And it was never designed to be repackaged. It was also not developed for direct injection into the eye, but it was instead developed to be delivered through a drip IV. So the standards of ophthalmology approvals are different than oncology. And further to that, this preparation that we'll have, by not having to go through the repackaging process, that maintains the integrity of the molecule. It gets handled the right number of times before it gets injected into a patient's eye. So our product that was just approved in Europe and is going through a final clinical trial in the United States must meet all the regulatory requirements for injection in ophthalmology for us to be able to get this approval.
Thank you for that, Russ. I've been looking forward to this segment because you've certainly had an action-packed 2024. Can you highlight for those who are joining us today your key achievements so far this year?
Yeah, it's been a good year so far. We started out the year in January by achieving a SPA agreement with the FDA. That was in January, and we were able to initiate enrollment in our final clinical trial shortly thereafter. And what this SPA agreement is, it's a special protocol assessment, which is an agreement between the company and the FDA, in our case, around the design of our clinical trial, the aspects of our statistical plan to analyze these data. And there was an important question we asked as part of the SPA, and that was, will successful clinical data from this final trial suffice for FDA in terms of giving them the additional clinical information that they needed that they reference in our CRL from last August? And they answered yes to that. So that was a really good January. We're able to forge that agreement with FDA and come to a meeting of the minds of what the remaining clinical trial requirement was going to be. We then, immediately thereafter, within a week or so, secured financing with approximately 8 new healthcare oriented institutional investors, none of whom had been investors in Outlook before, and we secured investment of up to $172 million from them. Additionally, this year, we've secured EMA approval of our product for the EU countries and an MHRA approval in the UK, and these both occurred in Q2 and then in Q3. And then we completed enrollment of our NORSE 8 trial, our final planned clinical trial with FDA within 8 months of when we got that SPA approval from FDA by enrolling 400 treatment-naive patients who are suffering from wet AMD. So these were all plans we had outlined at the beginning of the year, and we've checked every single box so far. It's been a big year.
Well, congratulations on that. And I don't think I was overstating that you had an action-packed year for sure. Let's focus on NORSE 8. What does success look like for this study? Why do you think you will have a successful outcome? And what does success mean for the resubmission of your BLA filing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the key primary endpoint in NORSE 8 is to show non-inferiority of 3.5 letters against ranibizumab or against Lucentis, which is an approved product for the treatment of wet AMD. We feel that we've already demonstrated this in our NORSE 2 pivotal trial, which is a trial that FDA had indicated met all of its endpoints. And the reason we feel like we've achieved that already, even though NORSE 2 was a year-long trial, the first 3 injections of NORSE 2 were exactly the same as the entirety of NORSE 8. And what that is that at day 0, day 30, day 60, the patients receive an injection of either Lucentis or our bevacizumab candidate, ONS 5010. And then in NORSE 8, we measure best corrected visual acuity at the end of 8 weeks. Well, if you go back to NORSE 2 and you see that also there was an injection at day 0, day 30, day 60 of either Lucentis or our bevacizumab candidate, ONS 5010. And if you go back and you look at the difference in vision at that 8-week period in NORSE 2, there was only a 1-letter difference. Now, it happened to be in our favor, but statistically, that's a tie. Statistically, that's well within a 3.5-letter non-inferiority margin. So because we've already seen these data executed successfully in NORSE 2, we expect to see that same result in NORSE 8 as well. So our goal is to announce the top-line data in Q4 of this year. And that's when we expect, Janine, to be able to hopefully demonstrate that we have met this 3.5-letter margin. And that is the key primary endpoint for this study.
Well, it's certainly right around the corner. Russ, we started with a summary of your recent key accomplishments. Now let's turn to what investors can expect from Outlook Therapeutics in the near term.
So I think the thing that people are most looking forward to is the announcement of these top-line data. Because we were able to fully enroll this trial within 8 months of our SPA agreement in January, and have that completely enrolled within the Q3 of this year, we expect to be able to announce the top-line data, specifically this 8-week efficacy endpoint, in the Q4 of this year. I think people are looking forward to that. I don't think there's a lot of skepticism that we're not going to meet that target, but people are going to, I think, enjoy seeing what those results are, we hope. So that's what we're looking forward to for as one of our next key announcements. In the meantime, we've been working on the CMC questions that the FDA had outlined in the CRL. Good logical questions, good reasonable questions to ask. So we've been working on those while simultaneously meeting with the FDA in a series of Type C and Type D meetings to show them what work we've accomplished in the CMC, what the results of those examinations are, what the data look like, and to see if they've got any other questions associated with that. So we feel like we'll have that entire CMC package finished and probably off to our publisher, probably before we even announce our top line data this year in the fourth quarter. So that's what we're looking forward to in Q4. We then expect to be able to resubmit our BLA, which is a major amendment to the original submission, in the first quarter of next year. And if that examination all goes well, FDA's time clock on that is 180 days for finishing the review of a major submission. So we would expect the potential, if all the CMC data are according to FDA satisfaction and the clinical data in NORSE 8 are according to the FDA satisfaction, that could result in an approval in the second half of next year. We're also engaged in market access work in the UK and Germany. These are our first two markets that we're approaching in Europe. We've in all the partnering talks we've engaged in, just about everybody's pretty consistent in indicating they believe that approaching the UK and Germany first is the right thing to do. It establishes good reference pricing for the other countries in Europe. So that is other work that we're conducting as well.
Excellent, Russ. So congratulations on all of your progress and certainly exciting times ahead for OTLK. I can't wait to have you back on our platform for further updates. With that, this concludes the Virtual Investor CEO Connect segment with Outlook Therapeutics. I'd like to thank Russ Trenary of Outlook Therapeutics for joining us today. And I'd also like to thank our audience for your interest in this segment. As a reminder, Outlook Therapeutics trades on NASDAQ under the ticker OTLK. And if you like what you saw today, I encourage you to visit outlooktherapeutics.com for more information on the company, to sign up to follow the company to receive their alerts, as well as follow their social channels to stay current on the latest information. You can also visit virtualinvestorco.com for a replay of today's segment, as well as our latest segments and events calendar. Russ, thanks again, and I wish everyone a great rest of your day.
Thank you.